parked in front, hope it doesn't hail.
I know, that's what I did too.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I had to wait
A quick
I
getaway.
parked in the garage. I was thinking, I think maybe, I don't know.
You either have to walk through the hill or
You
get on
walk
your
through
car.
the hill or
Yeah,
get
it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
The car will be fine, he just has a concussion.
I'm worth more dead than alive now. So I have good life insurance.
There you go.
And Stephanie is on her way from Big Chief. She was
Okay.
waiting for the first monsoon wave to pass.
Yeah.
okay,
She rolled her ankle into some food, like soft food, didn't want to get too soaked.
okay. Well, do you want to just at least go through what we can now, and
Yeah,
when
yeah.
she gets here, we can,
That's fine. That should be any minute.
because it is now 6 p.m. I'll call the meeting to order, and if we can have roll call, please.
Chair Dodwell,
Here.
Councilmember Bertolino, Councilmember Dillard,
I'm here.
Councilmember Edens,
Here.
Councilmember Jordan. Here. Councilmember Stevens,
Here.
Councilmember McGowan, Councilmember Worther, absent.
Okay, do we have anyone who wants to approve last meeting's minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Can we get a second? Thank you, Niles. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Ms.
Abstain.
Mr. Dillard? Did you get the extensions? She's good. She knows what she's doing. Okay. Do we have any public comments from our one public person? Nope. We do. None. Now that she's here, come on up to the table.
Sorry,
before we
guys.
have this-
Yeah.
It was pouring. I'm like, there is no way I'm gonna run through this lot and make it there.
Oh, no.
Was that a plastic bag on your foot?
It totally was.
Nice for her.
To go back. I left it at the door.
Oh, well, you could have walked. Thanks so much for coming this evening.
Yeah.
Talking with the committee just a little bit. We've had several different businesses from around town come in and just tell us what's working well for them and what things we can do to, as a city, to help improve business.
Yeah.
and relationships with other business people here in town. So
Okay, cool.
that's great. You're up on the floor and can talk about anything you want from your perspective. Maybe
Well, why don't
us
you
a
tell me
little
what
bit
you've
about-
asked before and what the other feedback's been, and I guess I can feed on that, or
Mhm.
do you have direct questions about Ward 1?
Why don't you tell us a little bit about how things have been working for you in the city as a business person? And then we can kind of go from there. That'll open up.
You have good food.
Yeah, right. Well, it took a lot to overcome
Mhm.
from previous owners, the relationships.
Yeah.
And establish our reputation
Mhm.
as a good place. So that took us a few years. So
Yeah.
we went in the hole the first couple of years, just establishing ourselves and who we were and what we wanted to be a part of the community and stuff. I think we feel there were some breakthrough moments for us and some marketing that we've done to kind of get the word back out.
Mhm.
So we've been successful in that.
What kind of moments are those?
Well, a couple years ago, we did an article in West Magazine, and we established it in their food section. So I basically rented half a page every month,
Mhm.
and we called it something from the chef, notes from the chef, or something like that.
I read
So
it.
every month, we would write an article together collectively,
Mhm.
reflecting about just food things, like from like Food Network kind of things and stuff like that, and related it to his 30-something years experience, but then tied it back into Big Chief and what we were doing. So it was like a big giant ad for us. So we did that. We committed for a year with West Magazine, and that was a huge help for us.
Mhm.
When I was thinking, I sent Julian some things, like when I see things for other communities that I see that as winning things, I forward it to Julian. He's been fabulous,
Okay.
help-wise,
Mhm.
with that. Some of the charity things we've done within the community kind of brought our name out again in front of people. A lot of people have memories of Big Chief over the 90 years.
Mhm.
I mean, we seriously have people that come in and remember as little kids staying there.
Oh, wow.
The other thing is we've been reaching out for Route 66 clubs
Mhm.
all over the country. That's a huge thing. I feel like that's something that's not marketed here in Wildwood
Uh-huh.
as much as it should be.
How
There's-
did you do that? I mean, just,
What do you mean?
how did you get connected with Route 66?
I started joining clubs, Route 66 clubs,
Okay.
and stuff. And like if you look at like Cuba, Missouri,
Mhm.
you know, they have the whole murals and it's all about Route 66 and their restaurants and things like that. There's other towns that, you know, focus on Route 66, like Ted Drew's, it's all Route 66. So going back to that original, since it's an original section, and when people travel, we get them from all the time, all over the world. And they're traveling the original. They're not traveling the updated one down 44. They're traveling the original 66. So that kind of brings people through our neck of the woods.
I actually ran into a person over at Ted Drew's last summer, I guess,
Yeah.
who had, it was a couple that had come all the way from LA, and they'd stopped by Big Chief and had lunch, and then they'd come on through to stop at Ted Drew's, so I was like, wow.
Yeah.
There really are a lot of people that are doing this.
So my next goal is to start getting like the food networks, the travel channels, and kind of establishing us on that Route 66 route in the restaurant on that. So that's my next plan of attack for marketing wise. But I mean, then we've got like Craft just opened, they're on Route 66. There's that whole spread. It would be so cool if the city really embraced it. I feel the way they've embraced Deerbergs, like with all the lights and with all the flowers that are planted in the roundabouts and all that. I wish that was extended through the Route 66. I don't know. I personally think like that should be more of a cherished gem versus Deerbergs and Almaguey. Not trying to knock. I go to Almaguey once a week. Do we have a? It's his favorite. So I'm not trying to knock anything. I'm just saying I just wish it was more like what you're doing right now, phase 3 with the sidewalks and stuff like that. My vision is that it extends the whole thing and we really blow it up as a community, our Route 66 heritage.
Yes.
Sorry, have you seen the Living St. Louis series on PBS ever? They do like 15-minute fillers when things need to start and end on the hour, and they showcase different local spots, artists. It's really, really neat. They actually did a whole episode about Stonewall's Dance Hall and the music tradition a while ago. I'm on the Historic Preservation Committee as a liaison, and that's something that we talked about trying to get another episode.
That's so rich with
Dot,
history.
have
Stonewall's
you,
is like awesome.
if you're contacting Food Network, you might want to look into contacting them.
Yeah.
Because it
Well,
would be
that's
really
the-
neat if a whole episode was just for you.
Well, and I don't need a whole episode. I'm totally, and Julian, I'll tell you, I'm community based. I live in Ward 1, I work in Ward 1, it's my home. So it's more about the whole community versus, sorry, I'm gonna turn this off, because I don't know what they're doing. They all want to leave because it's raining. Radio's not working, can we go, can we go? So anyway, just doing that, I'd rather see it about traveling it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
It could still be localized. It's something
Yeah.
maybe I think that
yeah,
might be useful.
no, I like it.
Yeah, that's cool.
What is that name again?
It's called Living St. Louis. I
Living
could try
St.
to find the link to the episode that was already done in Wildwood and send it out to everybody, and
Yeah.
Julian could forward it to you if you
Sure.
want to see what the format
Yeah,
looks like.
Channel 4's been out, Channel 5's been out, those are neat things, but, so those are like what I call one-time events.
Yeah.
Like, once it's,
Right.
you pay for it and it's done. So marketing-wise, developing, like what I said with that article, once a month, it creates a pattern, and then people are looking for it. So marketing-wise, I would rather the city be marketing all Route 66,
Right.
and Big Chief's just one stop along the road, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you think that everyone understands that that is the old Route 66?
No, they don't know.
I
They're
was
not
gonna say, I
educated.
don't think so either. My father
been in St. Louis in all his life, and
Yeah.
used to hitchhike down, 44. In
Yeah.
his mind, he just refuses to believe that's the old 66. Of
That-
course, he's a little stubborn, but.
It's documented, yeah. It's-
But yeah, I think some education there might be.
Yeah, that would be cool. And like I've said, like so I was just downtown today, coming down 44, it's like historic Kirkwood, historic Webster, and I'm like, where's historic Wildwood? Like, why aren't we having a sign? Why don't we have that? You got historic Eureka, and I love Eureka. I love that whole setup on, we're down there all the time. I would love to see something more of that type of thing, like how Webster, you know what I'm saying? And I think people will come more. I think then the people that are leasing their buildings along that route are gonna they're gonna see the exposure they get. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
What about, so on these clubs, is there like a St. Louis Route 66 club or organization or
Chapter.
that you found?
Yeah, so they're all like small, and then they go into bigger groups.
Okay.
So there's one, he's a regular, so I hooked up with him, and then he set me up with other ones. So now we got them, like the car clubs call us because they want to ride the Route 66, so they'll come out and stuff. So once a year we get, you wouldn't believe the cars, is that. Cars that you would think are everyday cars, they have groups for. And they all come.
And when's isn't there a 100-year anniversary or something coming up?
We have a
for
90-year
90
anniversary. I think we have a meeting tomorrow, don't we? So in September, we've got 2 weekends picked out. We got to nail one down, I think, in our meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
And then we're going to be having a big celebration. That would be something cool, like if we came up with something marketing-wise to kick it off the Route 66 thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I know I've joined for Big Chief, but I would love the city to join as a group, as an entity, to promote it coming through our town.
Okay. So, Julian, is that noted on the visitor's guide?
Yes.
I thought so.
Yep. It's noted that Old Manchester is Route 66. I know that we're members of the Route 66 publication in the magazine.
Missouri Route 66 Association, we've been a longtime member.
Yeah,
One of the first cities actually to sign on.
yeah. I see it listed in the back of the book.
And then I guess, yeah, we should look at doing the social media stuff too, whenever those events and stuff come up. So yeah, if you have events or clubs or something that's going on, please
Yeah.
let Julian know.
Well, I know
so
that they're
we can
wanting to be a part of our 90th
Yeah.
celebration, so they want to be there and they want to promote it
Besides
through
that.
theirs.
What do you think about like job market wise in Wildwood? Are a lot of your employees coming locally, or they come from outside of Wildwood, or?
I'd say half are Wildwood and then the other half are outskirts. We have a few young kids that are local. But local meaning like 1 Lafayette, 1 Marquette, 2 Parkway South, kind of thing. The kids come and go. My other base, I have 2 from South City, 1 from Washington, 1 from Labadee. I have a girl that drives all the way in from Stanton? Sullivan.
Yeah, Sullivan.
She's from Sullivan. She drives in 5 days a week.
Oh,
Wow.
She makes good money though, so.
Right.
All my people, we take good care of the back of the house and the front of the house. I mean, they average probably 25, 30 an hour
Okay.
with their tips.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And I think the only thing that I've seen come through was maybe about, like a permit for the outdoor concert thing that you did, or the noise ordinances or something.
Live music on the patio.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, have you had any issues in just
So we do not.
working with the city on those
We do
things?
not use it. The city allowed us for Friday and Saturday nights, 5 to 9. Well, we have a line out the door during that time, so we don't need it that time. Music is another marketing tool. I would rather have like a Sunday afternoon when we're not as busy, like in between we do a great lunch, like after church, we do a great lunch and then we die. And then we get busy for dinner. So I would love like that carryover, like say 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, then I got people coming in for another reason. So you pick like music would be like on a Monday to try to bump Monday's sales. So it's more of a marketing tool than it actually is. If I paid $300 for a band, I need that band to bring me at least $3,000 in sales
Yeah.
in order for it to be profitable for me.
Right. What about just dealing the back and forth with the city as far as getting a permit or any of those types of things? Have you had to deal with any of that or any?
I just called Julian or called Joe.
And it's done. huh?
Everyone's been fantastic
Okay.
on that.
Good. Good to hear.
I think I've settled my neighbor down. That was,
Yeah.
I think I got her to settle down a little bit, so.
All right.
We're not, I think they had a different image of us, and that was part of us overcoming that past reputation
Yeah.
of previous owners.
Mhm.
And that's never who we wanted to be.
Mhm.
We didn't want to be a honky tonk. Our lights go out at 10. We're like, yay. Let's get out of here. We don't want to be that 1:30 bar. We don't want anything to do with that.
Right.
Mhm.
Oh, and one, I just thought of this too. I know I've been there a number of times when the parking lot's full and we parked at the middle school across the street. Any issues dealing with the Rockwood or crossing
No,
across
nothing
the
as of
street?
so
or-
far. I had one issue with one person from Lifetime Fitness. That was it. There's a bicycle group that comes through on Tuesdays, and I asked them to park across the street, and they come over when they're done, when they're finished, because they come over to the restaurant. But they thought they could just park at our lot and then leave, and I'm like, no, because now my lot's full, and so people keep on driving.
Right.
So parking is a little bit of an issue, but on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, my staff all park across the street. Rockwood's never said anything. I'm drawing a blank on Dr. Klaus at Llewellyn Middle. She's been fantastic on everything. They come over for field trips. The special school district, they come over, the division there, they come over probably twice a month and work in the garden with me and stuff, so.
Cool.
Good.
We have a good relationship with them.
Steve?
Stephanie, you were mentioning about car clubs and so forth, so I belong to the MG Club of St. Louis.
Yeah,
So,
I think you guys have visited once.
well, it's been a while, but
Yeah.
I want to come, bring it back. So we meet the second Monday of every month. I keep missing them because.
Mondays is the day to be here.
Well, yeah, well, it's not, we have a council meeting, but anyway, so it might be 30 people, okay?
That's okay.
So can you accommodate that, or, so
we've got
that,
seating for
an
all
area
four.
that would be just for the, as opposed to scattered around, obviously.
So
we
my
wanna have
floor
a meeting.
manager is named Sherry,
Mhm.
AKA Mama, and Mama is the keeper of the books.
Okay,
So I get you in touch with Mama and then
Okay.
see what she has on the books already.
okay.
So like we just had last week a funeral party. The week before, we had 3 different rehearsal dinners. So we're constantly have groups.
Because it would be great to come out and then
Yeah.
promote the whole,
Yeah.
original Route 66. It's, I mean,
We've
it'd
got
be great
motorcycle
people,
groups that come in. The Crossing Church in the Valley, their motorcycle group comes in probably every other Sunday. They stop in and eat lunch on their rides.
Mhm.
There's a private room upstairs if you need it, if you want a little more private.
But as the weather's warm, I mean,
Yeah.
now we can drive our,
Yeah.
MGs to the
Yeah.
club, to the meeting and stuff,
Yeah.
so.
Just give me a little heads up so I make sure I staff it correctly. We like to make sure we're ready and prepared for everything. Reflects better on us.
I didn't realize there was some upstairs.
All right.
Yeah.
So we can seat 30 right now. I'm in the process of mentally revamping that area and trying to figure out something new for it.
Hmm.
I was kind of thinking of maybe like a cigar/whiskey, something that would only be open like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and just staff it for that. And kind of like close off the door and make it like a, what's it called again? Like a secret entrance? When it's
Like
what's
a
it called?
speakeasy?
Yeah, I thought
Yeah, you
that'd
could,
be
you could
cool.
put a secret, like you could put a password on social media. Sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
Yeah.
I've seen other
Yeah.
bars do this. They put the password. You have to go on
Yeah.
your social media, so it gets the feedback and the
Yeah.
loop. They have to check. It'll work. It'll work.
Yeah. It's just such a limited space up there and to staff it, and then
Yeah.
they're going up and down with the food and stuff, so
It's a lot
if I
of-
change the venue up there, it could be something different, and it falls under my liquor license. So. I already researched it, the lawyer looked into it,
We want to make sure that doesn't.
right?
You just need to change your club meeting dates to
I
a
know,
different than.
because I've gone for 5 months now.
Yeah, you need to tell them. Well, what other things do you think we as a city and the rest of the crew could possibly do to help promote?
One of the things. Oh, sorry. One of the
That's
things we brought up.
This is a
and-
less formal meeting.
Yes,
than
yeah. I'm just
holidays.
excited to be here. I'm just like verbally excited. Okay. One of the things we talked about in historic preservation was putting something in the new resident packet that covered a lot of the historic landmarks. One of the things a few committee members brought up is that they had received feedback at the historic booth at city events that a lot of people weren't aware that there was anything, and I quote, old in the city. And so I think there could be a good educational part, which would include your business and the community in the new resident packet.
You would be surprised at how many people I talk to on a daily basis that don't even know anything west of 109 exists.
I know.
I swear.
I know.
Don't even know that it exists, let alone that it's part of Wildwood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't know.
Mhm.
We get it every day. Oh, well, my dentist told me I should come try this place, and, you know, like, we didn't even know.
Mhm.
If you drive, take a ride at night through the city of Wildwood and just look where the lights are.
Oh, yeah.
And where are you gonna go? You're gonna go where the lights are. We have
Exactly.
no lights. There's nothing. When you're driving down 109 and you pass Old Manchester, you got a choice to go right or left or go straight. Right at the firehouse is all lit up, going up this, towards this direction, towards east.
Mhm.
There's nothing west.
Mhm.
To me, I'm not gonna turn west. I'm not, you know, we talked about a sign.
Mhm.
We got a sign, but it's up in front of Pond School, the old Pond School, so you have to turn left to see where the sign
Want to
is.
see it? Oh.
And if you come off of 100, you have
Yeah.
to turn and go down in front of Living Word Church
Right.
to see where the sign is. It's not,
Yeah.
It's not fair.
and I know it may be a state thing or whatever, I get it's a state highway, well then we need to pursue the state. The committee needs to pursue the state and get that signage. I'm just saying. I live off Austin Ford, so when I'm going west on 100, there's a ton of signs. So one more that points to a historic area, you know what I'm saying, or historic shopping or anything. Like you would get people that would want to rent Pond Inn and make it like a, you know, or the other, where the air conditioning place was on the corner.
Mhm.
That would be a great little antique shop.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So in the 7 years you opened in 2012, has anything changed for the better or for the worse in the 7 years you've been here?
Well, yeah, you've been a fabulous addition.
Not that part. but-
I know, but you have been. You've been the liaison for me to call, you know, when I need something to get through or whatever, or something specific for Big Chief, I have questions, I pick up the phone and I just call you. So, and not bothering Joe, his plate's full, and, you know, everybody else has stuff going on. So, business stuff, it's been awesome to be able to talk to a business person. Because when we've looked at other locations about doing some other stuff that I've been, you know, I play around in my head with, so.
So what's next from here?
I don't know, I gotta negotiate with my landlord a little more, because I gotta decide if I wanna stay there. No kidding. No, I've got other venues and stuff in my head that I wouldn't mind trying. I just don't know if I feel like working anymore. Or working more
Working more.
than I already am.
Yeah. Yeah. My father-in-law owned a restaurant, and that's a lot of work.
It is.
A lot of work.
And obviously things like sewers
But
and
it's-
sidewalks and all that would definitely help.
It would blow it out of the water. Then we would actually have something, do you know what I'm saying? I mean, my septic, how much that costs me a year, it smells. Like after the rain, it's gonna smell. It's just how it works. And no matter what, how many chemicals they put in, it's just part of the deal. I live on septic at my house. But having a business, I mean, I'm sure the school wants off the septic too. It's nasty over there.
It's a rather high price that MSD is thrown on the table, so.
Hey, we're dropping $2 million for a turn roundabout. I don't see what the big deal is. I'm just saying, I don't know. Priority. But the whole Route 66 thing would be awesome, guys. I think that is a sure win, and it would just pump the whole area up, let alone the community. I mean, especially with all the new houses going in,
Yeah.
we have residents to support the businesses that are here, so.
And so probably the main reason we had a snowman search last year and the main reason we have a passport program right now is largely Stephanie's doing. She's kind of the brainchild behind the snowman search that got us up and running off that.
Well, because I wanted to involve the whole community again, like I thought that would be cool, like,
That's a really good
like I
idea.
said, when people don't know, and then the passport thing was the history.
Yep.
I'm of history, I love history, so when you say, that's just awesome. So to incorporate that, I think
Yeah.
that's like, I can't wait to go do that with Bo, and drive around this summer and start collecting, and I know I'm gonna force you to learn during the summer.
Only if he does it on a motorcycle, probably.
Yeah. He'd much rather be on a dirt bike or a four-wheeler right now, trust me.
Well, there you go.
Going through some
That's
mud.
true. Any other questions that we have for her or?
Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, we
No problem,
appreciate you
guys.
coming
It's a
by.
great
and
restaurant.
just
Thank you.
Telling us
I have
what
a
you're
great
doing
team.
different.
Good.
That's what's important. It's not just me, it's my whole team and they're fabulous.
Love that meatloaf.
So,
Yeah.
I know, Sundays,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's what the church groups went in for.
Oh, my husband's in love with your country fried steak, so he's traveled many places to get a good country fried steak.
It takes them
That's
3
his
days to
favorite
make that.
Oh,
Because
my.
then they bread it, freeze it,
Mhm.
bread it again, freeze it, so it all stays like extra crisp. Yeah, the toasted lasagna takes 3 days.
Yeah.
So when we're out, people are like, what do you mean you're out? I'm like, you caught us on an off day.
Everybody
It's all
wanted it
setting up in the
today.
freezer right now, I'll be ready tomorrow.
I didn't know you had anything other than the smoked French dip.
I made it last year.
You're missing out on
Right.
so
Well,
much.
2 years ago, I took off the tuna melt, and there was a tuna melt revolt. I was like, I had to reprint the damn menu. Just put the tuna melt back on. I'm like, my God, I was showed I only was selling 12 a week. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
now everybody wants tuna.
Yeah. Oh, no. Well, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us
All right,
this
cool.
evening and.
All right,
telling
guys,
us
well,
what we
best
can
of
do
luck
better.
and let me
Let us
know.
know
I
if
would
you have
have to
any
give you,
ideas.
oh, I love it. My brain just goes. That's just
That's
awesome.
wonderful, yeah.
That's awesome.
Have fun at game time.
Yeah.
Hope your foot heals.
I know, just need a few days, that's all. All right, guys. I'll see you
care.
tomorrow.
Thanks for coming in the rain.
Take care, guys. I don't need that, but we're going home.
She's got a lot of ideas. We need to work with our historic district along with economic development and see how do we take the history part and start marketing it more. So that we can give some business to the businesses. Okay, any other questions, any other things that you want to put on to-do lists from our discussion?
I mean, well, just like she said about just maximizing the Route 66 aspect, so
Mhm.
just making sure that we're keeping an eye out for those events or publications, groups, just anything that we can do to help maximize that, because I think that is, you know, one of the charms of Wildwood.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think one of the things.
How does, oh, sorry.
Oh, you're okay, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, since this is my first economic development meeting,
Mhm.
it does kind of bring up the question to my mind of where does HPC end and we begin? You know, where do the tween meet on that topic? Because it's certainly a historic piece of
Yeah.
the city, right?
Right.
But I'm not sure if marketing of historic is the same as preserving historic, but I've not been on either
Yeah.
committee, so I don't know the answer to that. Do you know?
Well,
Eden?
what we've talked about recently, and Joe can correct me if I'm wrong too, seems like that it's a really big push for primarily informing residents first and foremost, and increasing site visits.
That's this
second-
committee or this
Historic,
HPC?
and
The historic
then
committee.
we have talked about how to increase business, but I think it's only through the, if you show them it's here, they will come tracked, as opposed to, it's not event centered with a business focus. Would you agree with that, Joe?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I feel like we would be pretty well suited to do more of the event
Event
aspect, because we can set parameters to find out, you know, did business increase by X amount during this date? What were the sale revenues? Did it increase over the next 3 months? Did it fall off? Whereas I don't know that the other committee would think the same way. It might be nice, so if we organize an event for us to all attend, or
Well, my
I
idea
could,
was maybe
you know,
the two could
the historic
partner up.
yeah,
Project.
exactly, to
Yeah.
extend the meeting, and, yeah, because and Jill Von Gruben is excellent at, she's sort of the mental library of the city,
Yeah.
and the official, I guess, writer of the history, and so she's a really good resource for the types of information that we could boil down and put into handouts or social media or flyers.
Well, and I have one more thing, if I may.
Yeah.
The other thought that I had, Julian, is that maybe it comes down to on that piece, just the trivia, there's a, you know, Wildwood newsletter that goes out. So maybe there becomes like a, I don't know, is it weekly or monthly?
We actually got
Have a
this.
trivia of the week, you know,
that's
and there
cool.
could be a continuing piece just on that historical part, you know, did you know, boom, boom, boom. Or maybe it's a cue and then you gotta go to the next page to get the answer, you know, something like that that people might have a little fun with.
Did you see this yet? We got this on Historic
No.
Committee. This is really neat. It's kind of got what you're talking about, but to put on the internet. So with some of the pictures for the stamps, it's got just a really cool history.
Oh, where do I get a copy of that?
We have them here.
We have more copies
Yeah.
upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they also at local businesses?
They are,
Extra
so
copies?
every one of the 58 businesses in the Passport program has at least 10 copies of the book at their business.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like Snowman, where every business that's participating, you go to that business and you get a stamp from that business to put in your passport. For every 10 stamps you get one entry into the drawing for $1,000 or 500 or 250. The more businesses you visit, the more entries you get in the drawing. If you get all 58 stamps, you get 10 entries into the drawing for $1,000. So you can pick up a passport from us, from any of the 58 businesses.
We printed what, 9,000?
We printed, of those, 750.
Seven.
Yeah, so every business got 10 copies. We went through the extra 150 we had the first day. We were at the Music on Main concert on Friday, gave about 50 or 60 books that night. We already printed another 75.
Okay.
Some people in the first day already collected all 58 stamps. Yesterday, we had 3 people come by. It's crazy. They collected all 58 in one day, in like
Really?
4 hours.
Oh, geez.
You know, my book
That's
looks a
not
little
doing what
beaten
the-
and wrinkled. This has been living in my back pocket for the last week and a half, but, you know, we keep posting on social to remind people to get their stamps, so if you get, you know, a full page.
Oh, doesn't that look neat?
Did nobody tell you you were ineligible?
Yeah, I know. Everybody that I got the stamp from told me I was ineligible.
It's for marketing. It's for marketing.
Oh, well, the other thing is, because when you know, I really liked the economic development guide, but when you do economic development lists, you know, for other cities, and you talk about what things you have as of value that matter, a lot of communities list nice people, nice homes, good schools, and so we don't really differentiate on that, because there are other cities that have Rockwood in their school district, there are other cities that have nice people and safe communities and good houses, but we do have really important things like historic areas. That's where we're different. We do have different parks, we do have different cities, so I think those are what we really lean into, because
Yeah, we have the park systems and the history that other cities,
there's some room.
or they've torn it
They've
down
torn
so
it.
much that you don't know what Manchester was like 100 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that we brought up in the last historic preservation meeting was when the log cabin would finally be reassembled in its permanent home, you know, doing an opening and doing some sort of like historic event, kind of like Foss Park does. So, have you ever been to Foss Park with kids and historic stuff and people are in costume and all that stuff? Maybe we could do something kind of like that, but business center? Like it's some other sort of, I don't know. I
Maybe
haven't quite
Italian.
fleshed that out, but that might be something to look at. I don't know how that would.
What was the historic preservation committee, what were their plans for the log cabin reinstallation? Do we even have any timeline? That's a couple of years out, isn't it?
Oh, as the council may remember, recently you approved a contract with an architectural firm to help us put together a set of bid documents. Because that's the consistent complaint we've gotten from contractors, is that they really don't know what we want and they're not sure what we have, and so it's hard for them to put a very specific number on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And so they are beginning their work. They're going to do a partial reassessment to just kind of see what the bones look like. It's going to be on the top deck of the garage when we get to that point. I'm thinking that's going to be fall. But thereafter, we have to bid It probably won't be till 2020 because we've set aside no money
Yeah.
in the budgets for the reassembly. And then the other big question is, where does city council want it reassembled?
Mhm.
There's been a number of options in terms of locations identified, but no one's really kind of settled on it yet.
Yeah. Okay. Okey-doke. Well, how about we continue to pursue some discussion with the historic preservation?
Any specific questions you guys want me to ask at the next meeting, or you can email me and I can get, I don't know. I'll do whatever you need me to do to make it easier.
I would
I
like
think the question, yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, that's fine.
You know, maybe just bring forward the question and advise them that, you know, we were talking about maybe there's some opportunity to collaborate
together.
on the
Okay.
topic of historic wildwood with particular attention to the Manchester Route 66 route and what interest, if any, they might have in partnering up, collaboration.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see this, I would like to see the committee maybe work on, just like from the Historic Preservation Commission, maybe just get some of the basics. His number of miles, historic restaurants, historic buildings, whatever is historic about Route 66 that we have, just some bullet points. And then have this committee work on getting those bullet points out to some of these different, basically just free advertising, you know, whether it's the biking groups, the motorcycle groups, the walkers, the hikers, the fitness, the classic cars. You know, maybe it's just contacting, you know, these fitness places around CrossFit or something like that. Hey, do you ever think about doing a Route 66 challenge or something like that?
That's a great idea.
And,
I really like
you know,
that.
and then, you know, our committee, we can work on trying to get our name into some of these different groups and just put us on the map a little bit, so.
Yes, ma'am.
I have one other thought, maybe silly, but
There's nothing silly.
what about a Route 66 dog walk or dog parade?
That's a good idea.
You know, other cities I've been in, you know,
Yeah, do dog parades.
the rescue groups and, you know, homeowners, it's like bring your dog and do, you know, walk the old path of Route 66 or something like that,
I
right?
think it wasn't through Wildwood. I think
Free
there was
dog
another-
bones or.
Right, there was another group, I volunteered with some rescues, and we've done a 5K9 before. I think it was on the Foster. You could do one on Route 66. We could probably get one of the rescue groups to come and host it or something, and get some fundraising, and they all like it.
Maybe
But-
Purina would sponsor it and cough up the,
I could.
the big bucks.
And Purina's told us in the past, they love to get involved in any way possible. If they could come out and give a dog training exhibit, a frisbee exhibit at one of our festivals, they'd love to do that.
Do something at the hotel, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Cool.
And it could be a pet walk, it wouldn't have to be dogs.
Yeah. it could be a
Purina
couple.
could bring out, you know, one of the
Dog
bigger
show,
animals.
or
or
Drop
whatever,
it off.
right?
You can bring your horses.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I think one of the things that's been talked about informally, and Joe probably knows better than I, but the new proposed trailhead right in front of Grover Crossing, since that's on the original Route 66, having like
Yeah.
a Route 66 marker at that trailhead.
We could make that a bigger thing that would hopefully be somewhat simplistic for the city in that we promote bringing your dog or your, maybe some limits around the size of pets. If you have an elephant, maybe you can't come, but. Other
I know,
pets,
Steve, there it goes. There
Yeah.
it goes.
your pet snake, maybe not, but, you know, I don't know.
Katie?
Yep.
We have some markers along, don't we, denoting that that is the old Route 66? Somewhere along on there, I've seen one or two.
At the state of Missouri, the Missouri Department of Transportation has signed it as a scenic byway.
Yeah.
So they're standard MoDOT signs.
Mhm.
Before they switched to those, we had the others, the historic byway. And we also had added at the bottom that it is the original location from 1932 to 1938.
Yeah, there were like little ones or something down at the ground level or something, wasn't there? or
We're
something?
working on those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Would, I mean, I know in some cities I've been and they have poles with like flags kind of on it to say, you know, something about what's notable about that area. Is that against our,
We spent the better part of 3 years talking about street banners, and was never able to have city council endorse them.
okay.
The farthest we got was during Celebrate Wildwood Month. We put banners up on Taylor Road.
Well, I remember, yeah.
Yeah. It took a long time. The banners have been a dicey issue with, we had banners for a while over towards the community college and that location, and they weren't cared for effectively, and they
Right.
started looking pretty ratty.
Yeah, that's
So,
true. It does need upkeep.
We set up some new guidelines for how long they can stay up.
Madam Chair, that was the developer of Meadows of Wildwood. We didn't, the city didn't want to get ready,
Oh,
so.
point
The
big, ratty
devel- Yeah,
association.
yes.
It wasn't, there weren't.
It was not the
any
city,
banners.
it was the developer that was the problem.
I just don't
I-
want you all to think that.
Thank you
let
for
it go.
clarifying. I appreciate that, I appreciate that. Okay, well, let's plan on coming back to the next meeting with a few pieces of information from historic preservation.
In particular to Route 66.
In particular to
Yeah.
Route 66, yes.
I'll send you guys the email of that Living St. Louis video as soon as I can find it.
Julian, can your to-do be to look at the city calendar and find out whether or not there is a good Saturday or Sunday available where we could hold some type of thing, either June, maybe early July, but not late July and August. People aren't going to want to walk any distance. Or could we maybe correlate it with something in the fall?
Yeah, one thing Stephanie mentioned was her 90th birthday for Big Chief. You know, maybe partnering with that, maybe trying to avoid after the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
Or the
That's in
opening,
September.
Yeah.
That's in September?
Okay.
September.
opening of the, when's the trail gonna be done?
Yeah, the
Like
trail.
with the opening of the trail or something?
It appears with the sewer project being discussed along with the trail, it won't probably be any earlier than 2020.
Okay.
So September.
Yeah.
Well, then.
Planning tomorrow today.
There we go, there we go. Well, that can be next year's
Never heard of it.
head point for the pep walk that we're gonna do.
But tying it in with, somehow with the 90th would be a
Yeah,
real thing if we could
yeah.
somehow do that.
That would be
Yep.
fantastic, that would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
we're meeting with Stephanie tomorrow. We can bring that up some more.
Yeah, I'll bring that up with her tomorrow a little bit more.
That's incredible that she said there's people coming that said they stayed there as, when they were little. I mean, that's just really amazing.
Yeah, yep. This used to be a long way to go to get out here. Okay, enough on this event? This topic, we've got some to-dos from it. Let's go on and look at the green events proposal by Councilmember Edens real quickly here.
Well, I know you guys weren't here the last meeting, but I sent an email, I don't know if you got it, yeah, got a chance to look at it, but, I was thinking of things that we could do to help the community and local businesses that would be really proactive, and one of the strengths that we have, you know, we talked about park and trails, is we have wonderful, gardening and greenhouse businesses and landscaping and compost businesses, and it covers a variety of wards that represent our constituents, and I thought it might be nice to do an event where it's more of a business expo, and we could invite these businesses to have booths, and we could have them help advertise for that at their local businesses, and if we do this, we would want to make sure that it's worth city resources and worth their time. So one way we could do that would be maybe to ask to increase attendance for them to provide attendees with like a coupon or a % off. And then with the attendees brought that to their business and made a purchase, we would know exactly what dollars were generated from that particular, it would just be a way to track the money, to see if we really helped them or if we didn't help them. And I think it's something that we could advertise to the greater West County area. And then I thought one way to kind of keep people there longer, you know, instead of just a loop around the businesses and out, would be to have some sort of informational speaker on different topics. I know that we talked about what the community garden has done in the past, but it doesn't have to be centered to gardeners. It could just be centered to the everyday person that does landscaping and needs to know about tree care. And that would be a great topic for the fall. And that would also make it more inclusive of yard care companies too, I would think. And then, you know, we could have somebody from the botanical garden, maybe they would advertise for it, or we could have a speaker from, you know, ag extension. But I kind of wanted your thoughts on that, and what you think would be good, if this is something you're interested in. I think honestly, I think it would be pretty popular. I don't know if it would be an inside thing or an outside thing. If it was an outside thing, maybe we could get the food truck or the WBA involved too. If it's successful, maybe we could do it again in the spring, you know? If we thought it worked, if it didn't work, we don't ever do it again.
The fact that we've got the community garden right behind this building now.
So at least a few attendees out of there, maybe the, you know, advertise at the farmer's market. But I think, so what I've learned in not only talking to my neighbors, talking to friends across all age groups, is there's two things. There's folks that don't know where all of these businesses are. So for example, you know, in Ward 2, it's really easy for me to go to Zick's. It's also very easy for me to go to Pasiglia's and gasp if I cross the border and go to, you know, Timber Winds or Summer Winds or whatever it is now. But out of sight, out of mind for me would be like Far Greenhouse or Papillion Perennials or even Fix. So we have a lot of Wildwood citizens that don't even know about all these businesses. You know, if they're not out there, then maybe what happens is they go spend their money at Home Depot in Ellisville instead. So,
Looking at calendars again, if we look at a fall time frame for having something along this line, does that seem like we're filling up the plate too much?
You know, obviously it's not the city's job to advertise for these businesses. The businesses can advertise for themselves if they wanted to do something like this. But what about just reaching out to see if they would want to pool resources to, you know, just buy into one of our already current events, whether it's Farmers Market or the Celebrate Wildwood, the opening of the community garden, and just giving them, you know, maybe a little bit bigger platform, that if 3 of the 6 or 2 of the 6 or whatever wanted to, you know, partner together to do some sort of event or class or something like that, but just tie it into something that we're already got going that has to do with the green.
And we can pull it into.
do you think that they would see it as cooperation or competition? Would they take the
With each other?
initiative to do that themselves, or is that where we really need to step in and kind of offer an event? I
think they all
don't know.
see the opportunity to work together. Meeting with every one of them, I haven't heard anything from any of them that it's direct competition or that they hold ill will against any of each other. I think everybody's in it for the same reasons and wants to work together, especially if they're all in it together and they're all benefiting from it together. I don't see any reason why they'd be opposed to it. You know, I think the details of it, what's the location, what's the location, what's the event date, is there a cost, what are we asking them to provide, what's the city providing, you know, those kind of details that would have to be ironed out. But it's relatively easy to just get a meeting scheduled of some of those 5 or 6 different businesses, just to have the powwow and say, what do you think?
Maybe that would be good, and then if they say no, then we just push them going to other, trying to get their name out there more.
And Joe, you mentioned we did some kind of gardening expo in the past, just as a city event.
Yes, when we opened the garden for the first few years, when Sidney Wright was the manager, we used to invite speakers to the garden. They weren't necessarily just for the gardeners that were registered at our facility. It was open to anyone. We cross-advertised with the Wildwood Family YMCA. There was some interest, but I tell you, the July and August discussions, people were like,
Mhm.
it's just too hot in the garden.
Yeah, so maybe it could be, I don't know if it should be indoors, but I really think that if the businesses advertised for it themselves, that might pick up an extra crowd that wouldn't normally come out to this. I don't know, just a thought. But if you guys don't like the idea for this gardening thing, maybe there's something else that we can think of for another, I guess, category of businesses too in the future. You know what I mean? Like maybe another sector retail or something. I was just thinking this is kind of a really neat strength, and then instead of it just being, you know, garden stuff, then we could invite like maybe the Lifetime Bicycle Club or some other sort of nature group. I don't know. I mean,
Well, we've got the art festival the 19th and the 20th. Is there any way we could tie into having some kind of an educational component with the outdoors at the art festival, or is that way too much?
I would love to have the landscapers, the plant nurseries, the far greenhouses of the world participate in something and celebrate wildlife. It's in advance of the fall planting season.
Okay.
I mean, as far as bringing some stock along, just to tell or show people what they have. I mean, that's a true open event. Anybody's welcome, from business to vendor to organization. I just love to have them there. They're longtime businesses in Wildwood, many precede Wildwood, and they can come and basically offer their services. At the art festival, like you mentioned, Madam Chair, I think a lot of people treat landscaping as a form of art. I mean, you see some of the gardens in Wildwood and some of the things they do with plantings. I could see that being a component, just drawing interest. So I see two events we already do. I'd love to invite the people and use council member Eden's ideas.
Yeah, I like to celebrate Wildwood, and I think the best parts about the Celebrate Wildwood are the interactive things. So just like the Boy Scouts having the axe throwing and stuff out there, that's perfect. That's something that the whole family can get out there and enjoy. So if we could get them to do something like, you know, a blind smell test or something, you know, like, is this compost or, you know, not, you know?
we'll come back to that. We'll get back to that.
But yeah, something that's interactive that, you know, a kid can come and learn how to plant or dig in a box. If they just have a box of dirt that kids can come play in and teach them about plantings and trees and
what
things like that.
composting looks like, a little earthworm in a cup and
Right.
Or worm casting. Do you have anyone, I don't know if we have anyone involved with it, does that?
But yeah, if you could get a meeting together just to see if they would want to, like, what does it cost to get part of Celebrate Wildwood? How much does it cost them to, either for a booth or a tent or a?
Booths are $25, and that includes the tent, tables, and
Negligible.
chairs.
Right.
Certainly, if the Economic Development Committee said for this particular idea, you want the fee waived, that's entirely feasible. Most of the not-for-profits and the organizations that serve our residents, we don't charge them anything.
Could we cluster the businesses together? That would be nice. Just like make a whole corner.
I know we're going to extend over into the new 6 acres, not much, but it'd be kind of fun to put a challenge out to those landscaping businesses. Do several plots, show your best here. And then let the residents that come basically pick the one they like best, and you get a gift certificate.
That's an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is makes better sense of city resources because the event's already established. There's already, you know,
Well,
bodies
easier.
and food trucks and other things. And if we the only thing is, could we still find a way to make it economic based, so still somehow measure and track success to see if we actually helped increase customer spending?
Here's what I'm going to propose. is that this is Miss Eden's idea. So if we can get her, and I would volunteer, if nobody else wants to volunteer, to meet with Julian and the landscaping companies that we've been talking about here. And we sit down and kind of chart this out a little bit more and run it past them to see whether there would be an interest from that particular group of individuals. And if we can do that in the next couple of weeks or so.
Well, and the other thing is, I don't know if I did a good job comprehensively of including all of the things that, can you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows everybody, so. And then we can report back at our June meeting as to what we've been able to put together with that group of individuals, how we can tie it into Celebrate Wildwood, or if they would prefer to do the art festival instead, or if they'd like to do both because it brings different audiences, I don't know. That then provides some additional things, but it needs to be, I concur with you and with Joe that it needs to be something more than just a booth with a poor guy that's standing there going, here's our brochure, here's
Right,
our brochure.
right.
Because that would be awful.
There is, okay, you know how there's those like wine and paint store fronts? You know what I'm talking about? There's a group called Plant Night. Have you heard of that? Well, anyway, I've seen them advertised on Groupon. I've never done it, but the idea is that you sign up like you would for painting night, but it's at a bar, except you make a planter. And it attracts a lot of people that otherwise wouldn't garden or do anything. Maybe that's something we can get the greenhouses to do and tie it into other businesses and restaurants. You know, on the hours she's talking about, that it's totally dead traffic. Now, I don't know how that works with food licenses, if it's a food establishment and not a bar to actually bring in dirt. Maybe that's a terrible idea, but there might be something that we can do that bounces off exactly what we just talked about right before this. Like, so what they would do, I don't know if you might just want to Google on your iPad Plant Night, but they make like little succulent planters and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
$25 or something.
Well, we will dig into that more when we get the entrepreneurs that own the businesses together with Julian, and if it's okay,
Yeah.
me and,
That's fine.
is that okay with the committee? You have any problem? Okay, we'll take that one on. And then report back at our next meeting in June.
Tim loves meetings, so make sure and ask him if he wants to come.
That's okay, he can miss one, but I can, he'll hear from the minutes. He'll hear from the minutes, he can read those. Thanks, Lauren, I appreciate the discussion and the thoughts from you and everybody else about ways that we can bring in some of the plant life, especially since we just had a discussion last night at council meeting about trees that couldn't be removed but could be removed, but couldn't be removed, and not in violation.
Or can
Better to ask forgiveness.
Yes. Please do. I'm sure it's already posted somewhere. Okey-doke, the economic development guide, comments from the committee. Did everybody send out some of their comments?
I received one email from you, and I included that email with the memo in. And so the genesis of this is that the Economic Development Guide document, hopefully everybody has a copy of it by now, and if you don't, I can provide one, that was created in 2016, so now almost 3 years ago to the day, did identify in the guide that the plan is produced with a 5-year structure and should be thoroughly evaluated after 3 years with an anticipation of a total update in 2021. So since we are at that 3-year mark, at the last Economic Development Committee meeting, we asked that the committee review the guide, do your due diligence, and provide us with any comments for edits, updates, revisions, and so on, just so that we can meet that standard of thoroughly evaluating after a 3-year period, recognizing that there will be a total update in 2021. I did receive some comments back from Chair Dodwell that I provided with the report, just as far as some edits, a couple questions within the first 10 or so pages of the document that we can discuss. I did talk to Councilmember Edens this afternoon as well, but if anybody else has any questions about the guide that we should look into, consider updates to, since the guide instructs us to look at this thorough evaluation after 3 years, we just want to make sure that we do that.
I've got one question. That guide was developed by an outside consulting firm.
Correct.
Do we have to have the outside consulting firm come in and do an update on that guide, or can we create our own like we have for town center and other areas?
In my personal opinion, this is our product, it's our property, we can update it however we like without any outside support.
So they don't hold any intellectual property rights?
Yeah, okay, good.
I do need a copy, please.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Sure.
One of the things about the guide that
I'll just bring it
is
up.
probably more of a major change for the big,
Thanks, Katie.
you know, but community outreach is great, except when most of the comments are negative. So it's like right off the bat, you start reading through these and there's concerns and, you know, they lack this, you don't have this, there's not enough of this, there's, you know, it's just very negative to start off with. I don't know, I would like to see something to, at least through the first 10 or 15 pages of the guide, to show more of the positives that we have and promoting what we do have versus the community feedback of all the stuff that we don't have. But I know that that's not for this, and we're just doing a cursory, you know, thing that's down the road. But
And I would agree, because a lot of times in meetings, whether it be with business owners or development types, I'll bring with me the guide as a aid for the discussion to really show all the great things we've been doing lately and all the commitment we've made towards economic development for Wildwood. And usually I either reference the guide or give them the guide, and if the first 10, 15 pages hit all out of the negatives, it doesn't serve as much of a marketing tool.
right.
I have a quick question. I don't have to raise my
Yeah.
hand. She disappeared. So you know, there's a section on the entrepreneurs and the outreach to, oh my gosh, incubators. Have we ever contacted, the UM system has a business incubator, there's one operation, you know, in St. Charles, other ones at Mizzou. Have we ever asked if they have overflow, or we could be a satellite for them?
Not them directly. We've talked to the entrepreneurship innovation teams at the Economic Development Partnership, St. Louis Regional Chamber groups, but never directly the UM Extension. I know Councilmember McGowan has served with the UM Extension for a long time, but I don't think we've ever done anything with it directly in that regard.
Okay, because the Mizzou-based one, when I was there, it was having some issues in terms of filling to capacity, but it actually was an extension run. So it was more tech sector, chemical company startups and things like that. But since we are so close to other, you know, wonderful university resources in the area, maybe instead of trying to develop an incubator on our own, they can just kind of slot in.
What about for, I don't know how easy of a change this would be, but just something simple on the districts. So page 46, 47, section 4 of the town center districts, rather than calling it the historic Manchester Road District, how about the historic Route 66 district? I don't see anything about Route 66 in there, since we're talking about Route 66.
Mm-hmm.
Is it mentioned as historic Manchester?
It is,
Is
yeah.
that-
If you look at page 41, Town Center Districts, the map right behind it references Historic Manchester Road District. It talks about 19th, 20th century historic character, destination retailers, old town charm.
I see it shows historic Route 66 on the map.
Mhm.
It needs like a big logo is kind of what you're thinking, yeah.
Can we refer, is there any reason that we refer to it as the historic Manchester Road District in general versus the historic Route 66 business district? Like, in the city? Like, Joe, is there any reason why we can't just rename it the historic Route 66 business district?
My recollection is the consultant was aware that it was Route 66. I think they leaned more toward a generic name. I see no reason not to change it if the
Yeah.
committee should choose.
I like that.
Yeah,
Could we do that?
I don't see any reason why not.
And it says historic US 66 on the map instead of Route 66, which is kind of a more common name.
Yeah.
Might make sense to change that.
Yeah, some of the, they needed an editor to go through their document before they turned it back to us, I think.
And I obviously wasn't here during the creation of this document.
No, you
but
weren't.
I know the consultant that did it fairly well, and they are based in Chicago, which probably doesn't help as much, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And they have historic US 66 on the wrong road, too.
I noticed
It's
that.
on the
Yeah.
wrong color.
My name is Sean Taylor. I just want to talk to one of you guys for a second.
We need to shut it off. Good. If it's loud, then-
I just kind of want to hear what Sean
I was
has to
right.
say.
I was kind of curious. Let's hear what you got. Maybe a lot more interesting than what's going on.
So is everybody home on live stream?
Yeah. How's the hockey game going?
I like the way you think.
I know that's what you want to be doing. It's pretty much what we all want to be doing.
And so I would say plan on that total update, as they call it, in 2021. I think the term that we used at the last meeting was a cursory update to go through and see if there's anything that really needs to be addressed, changed, completed, more so than we might be right now. A lot of this document was created now maybe 3 years ago when the task force was still around, not the committee. So I think the guide instructed the city to consider creating the committee in lieu of the task force. I think a product of the guide was creating this full-time program. So a lot of the things that were identified in the guide as action items have now been, right.
Right, good.
So instead of create a business retention expansion program, now it's continue to implement and improve the business retention expansion program. And we can make all those edits as we get to that 5-year point, but since the guide did instruct us to thoroughly evaluate, we want to make sure that we do that.
So we're only making ancillary changes at this point.
With notes for what could be included in the more comprehensive update, which maybe at that 2021 period, we do a similar to the master plan, chapter by chapter, complete review and update.
I still would like to see, separate from a incubator emphasis, I think I mentioned, I mentioned this, but is a emphasis on potentially recruiting co-ops. And I mean, there's co-ops for all sorts of things, especially in rural areas. So, I mean, it could be everything from a music business or to an art studio where people, are resident artists and come in, that also offers public classes. And the reason why I thought would be really neat if it's art-based is because that's our fastest growing employment sector in the city. So it seemed like there would be an opportunity with that. We're kind of a artsy community. I mean, there's other co-ops that hire fair trade, there's all kinds of really neat opportunities with that. They also make less risky financial decisions, which when we're looking for businesses to stay and not have a high turnover rate in town center, that might be a plus. But
We can tie in with preventions and
yeah.
the porch and some of those artistic activities that they're doing from
Yeah.
a design standpoint in someone's home, but
Yeah, but I mean, there's, I liked that it brought up like a shared kitchen space for chefs and training and things like that. I think that's a really neat idea that's in there, but I mean, Co-ops are a really underused resource that have a lot of potential.
But if you're looking at a co-op like that, you would bring in chefs from different places. I mean, there's a great deal of investment to create a space for them to do that kind of thing.
I'm not talking about city owned, I'm talking about private owned, well, the co-op owns it, we don't own it, we just are providing them the space, but we're making an effort to bring them to be co-op friendly, unless we want to join the co-op for some reason, I don't anticipate why we would do that, but.
And do we have any buildings that aren't being leased?
That we own, no, but that are privately owned.
Yeah.
I think you just need the interested entrepreneur to take the initial step and start it. I mean, once you can have the co-op kind of assume ownership once the business is operational. You need that group to start it first. And maybe if there's other regional type co-op organizations that you can piggyback off of, borrow resources from, maybe there's groups in other locations that might want to branch off and start one locally. But you always need that first person to take the first step.
We can't really push that much. We can't force anybody to do it.
But you know, we have, back to her comment, we have a couple of groups right now that are interested in opening their own commercial kitchen. We have a group interested in potentially opening a bakery that might want to have other space for other bakers and kind of lend themselves towards community kitchens.
Which
They're
is
still,
essentially very
Right.
much like a co-op.
they're still like community kitchens or community bakeries. They're privately owned for profit, but they still serve in the same kind of purpose.
Well, that's where you might have a further discussion with Stephanie, because you heard her say she's thinking of other things that she might want to branch out to.
Yeah.
You don't know what those are, but
Yeah.
she's apparently in the right frame of mind to be looking at other entrepreneurial opportunities.
She has ideas. There's a lot of good ones.
So,
I don't know if anybody, if you even went over any of the questions I posed, or do we even want to go over?
We can,
Do we care,
definitely.
do we not? Is there any interest in any of those categories at all to do further digging into going forward?
I think we really should push number 6, maybe the ecotourism. I just think it's one of our strengths. It would be really neat as if somewhere in the historic 66 or, farther out. As if we had a really cute bed and breakfast that we could advertise as a destination,
Are they looking to turn Pond into a bed and breakfast?
No, that will be some kind of a food and beverage kind of place,
Yeah.
so whether it be a restaurant or a bar or something close to that. We've had very preliminary talks to some people who have interest in creating bed and breakfast in Wildwood, but nothing anywhere near Hollywood.
Yeah, I think with the ecotourism, just focus on our strengths, which is the trail systems, so just whatever we can do to maximize, which we do a lot of anyway. We're in all those magazines, and I know I see a lot of the, Wildwood gets rated top trails in Missouri and stuff a lot, so.
And 2 of our special events we do throughout the year, we've talked about in the past, whether it be the Great Rivers Greenway Life Outside Festival that's next Saturday, the Mississippi Valley Bike and Outdoor Expo that's at now Union Station every January. Those are definitely marketing or key assets. The parks, the trails, the special events, the outdoor recreation that people come here for. I mean, that is a huge marketing and tourism piece to be at those events. And the app launched today, Joe?
Yeah, I just downloaded it on the iPad.
The Parks app launched today.
I almost accidentally called 911 right off the bat.
Just test them and see if it works.
I hit the SOS thing and it just popped up, and I was like, how do I get out of this? I don't want to hit the wrong button, the wrong icon.
Oh, that's not good.
Hopefully some kid on the trail doesn't have the same experience.
Oh,
Pocket dial, sorry.
Only hiked 5 miles to get you.
I know, exactly.
A friend of my son is a dispatcher for St. Louis County, and they get a lot of those kind of phone calls, pocket calls. Okay, well, I guess
Well-
we've had enough of a discussion.
Well, one of the things, like,
Unless you guys have more input.
you mentioned, what local entrepreneurs are wanting or needing to improve business growth. Does the committee ever want to take up, just business-friendly code changes, ordinance changes? Like, is there anything that we're hearing from the business community that we might want to recommend to council that, might make the code more business-friendly? So I know I talked to a business owner, and I think he tells everybody that he talks to in the city about this when he talks to him, is the sign deposit, and he's all upset about the sign deposit. And I know why we do it, obviously, because we don't want the sign to be up there forever, but, that just kind of spurred me to think, maybe there are some small code changes that we could look at that businesses might appreciate that aren't going to completely take us off the rails of what Wildwood is supposed to look like.
How would we go about doing that, Niles? Would we just bring in a code book for one of our meetings and sit down and
Well, no, just in these meetings here that we're dealing with the business owners and things like that, and just like I did whenever I talked to the guy, just, hey, how's it going in the city? If they bring something to us like that, it might be worth, just investigating a little bit. It might be something that we look at in like the sign code and just be like, no, I ain't doing that, like next. So,
I would
but,
just ask the WBA president, because they would have a better understanding of all the businesses.
especially if there's businesses that deal in multiple municipalities. Is there something that we're doing in Wildwood that is, that not hinders business growth necessarily, or that is just annoying to businesses that we don't necessarily have to be doing? And are those recommendations that we want to make to council or not? If we're, the Economic Development Committee, are we,
Yeah,
you know?
we should be, yes.
And Joe, I believe, was it planning and zoning that just had a whole discussion on town center signage? And any changes to it?
We did talk about town center signage. Both the city council and the planning and zoning commission were favorable toward some of the proposed changes. We've talked about adding drive-through facilities out along Route 109, which is a consistent comment we get from the brokers that represent property owners there. They could fill the spaces, but the type of uses want drive-through facilities. That did receive a favorable review from Planning and Zoning Commission or City Council. We've tried. I listened to Julian, I listened to the businesses, I take it to the Planning and Zoning Commission. They don't like it, you don't like it, so it's not that we've not brought you opportunities.
Yep.
But it's your call, and we'll do what you say. By the way, we talked about signs last night. We're doing an overall comprehensive review. So this will be a great opportunity if there are changes you'd like to the commercial sign code.
I've got just a question offside somewhat. If there was a different design to drive-throughs, would planning and zoning be agreeable to them? Or what's causing the reason for not having drive-throughs?
There's the fundamental principle with new urbanism that it's intended to create walkable neighborhoods. And so from the perspective of purists, so to speak, they see drive-throughs as anti-new urbanism because it actually doesn't foster walkability.
Okay.
But I think what we talked about, Julian participated in those meetings at Planning and Zoning Commission, it's just practicality. I mean, it's unreasonable to expect a father and mother with 2 kids in their car seats that just wants to grab a bite to eat to go home, to basically assume they'll get out of their car, take the kids out of the car seats, walk in, get in line, wait, then walk back, put them in the car seats and drive off. Food will be cold probably by the time they get home. So there's things we can do to make things better for our businesses and increase the marketability of the lots that we have available. But we haven't been able to convince people of there's a way to do it. There's design features design tricks, gee, make a drive-through look pretty darn good.
Well, I've said this before, I've been in Atlanta, and I've been in San Francisco, and I've been in other cities around the country that you don't even know it's a drive-through until you find that line to get into. But from the streets, and it's in a walkable neighborhood as well, so.
I think the perception has changed over the last 20 to 24 years as well. 24 years ago, drive-thrus were for McDonald's and Taco Bell's. Now it's every sandwich shop, ice cream shop, smoothie shop. A lot of the businesses that we are directly trying to go out and find haven't come here yet because they demand a drive-thru. And
Yeah.
either we don't have a building that has one, or the place they want to go won't allow for it.
Yeah.
And so the perception has changed over the time period, but we still just haven't found a way to make it work.
So what I'm hearing is if we make exceptions, we could have an Andy's ice cream.
Something like that.
Please don't take my comments as critical. I understand.
No.
No.
We're not taking them as critical. I'm just trying to figure out how you,
I don't want a McDonald's at the front of Villages of Cherry Hills Parkway. I'm just saying.
No,
I'll just go ahead and say it.
I agree with that.
That's a workplace zoning, so I don't want to change workplace zoning to drive-throughs, but that's just me, I don't, and that's part of the problem that we have is those,
The proposal was
things.
for Route 109 and Route 100
There you go.
only.
yeah.
And again, those two corridors are not prime residential space.
Yeah.
So, again, understood. We want that next to or near residential. No, it's just not a workable solution because of the components associated with drive-throughs. But certainly there are locations in the town center that can accommodate it well.
Yeah, the
We are
problem
doing
though with the, I'm sorry now, it's I mean, with drive-throughs like up here by the bank and everything, so, I mean, there's, Bread Cove, drive-through, and then what else is up there?
Starbucks, right?
Starbucks. I mean, we've heard complaints of, with the, people can't get around and get into the bank or whatever because of these long lines of drive-throughs. So laying them out properly without interfering other businesses that are around those drive-throughs that their customers can't get to a parking spot or something is an issue as well.
Please don't use Bread Company as an example. The alternative, I think City Council recognized that Bread Company was leaving Wildwood. If they didn't get a drive-through. And so we did what we thought was best for the community and made something work. It's not perfect, certainly.
There are a lot of people that have no internet in Wildwood use that as their source.
Understood. And we're trying our darndest to get them internet.
And a lot of people who have kids at home who work from home using.
Well, and you just brought up a point that I didn't put on here that I meant to, which was, I think one of the keys for any economic development is that we have internet throughout the entire city. So hopefully the current discussions and activities that are going on are going to get that moving more quickly for us with the new technology. You work for AT&T, don't you? No.
No, Councilmember Porter does.
Yeah, okay.
I work for property management,
Oh, that's
property owner,
Okay.
multifamily
Okay.
property owner.
Okay, gotcha. That's right. Good. Anything else we want to talk about as far as this document and any adjustments? Since nobody made any comments back to Julian, is there anything that we need to make changes to in the existing document as it stands today? Or do we wait until the 5-year mark and?
What is the primary goal of this device here?
It was mainly to identify the primary goals of the community for economic development. Where are the opportunities for growth? What type of growth do we look for? What types of businesses is the community lacking and trying to find? There's a page in here I reference consistently, and it says, Other planning efforts have captured a list of the types of businesses and other uses desired by the community, and it's ice cream shops, breweries, healthier, faster food, smoothies, delis. You know, it's identifying what types of growth does the community want, where, and how can we go out and find it. It was kind of a blueprint for this program before I came on board that gave me a great idea of what does the community want before we started working.
It's got good data too on population trends and age, and
Mhm.
it's very, very
How
comprehensive.
do we go about getting updated population data, especially since we've got new subdivisions going into that town center core? Do we have to go back to,
We can pull ourselves.
we can pull it ourselves? Okay. Good. And we can get that at a later date. Okay.
Next up. Steve, do you want to take this one?
You can take it.
Sure. So the letter D under our 4 action is economic development input from department heads. You received a memo in the packet from Steve and Joe following the direction from the last meeting. The action item from the last meeting was to have Joe and Steve talk to the other department heads, senior staff at City Hall, and kind of ask them how economic development impacts their jobs at City Hall. How does economic development impact planning and parks, public works, finance, recreation? And so in response, Steve and Joe talked to all the department heads around City Hall and provided back this response of the feedback they received in response to that request. And, Steve or Joe, do you guys want to dig into any of the details in it at all?
We'll just answer questions if it, I think it's fairly straightforward in terms of the impact that it has on the individual areas.
I think just that discussion about the drive-throughs and such,
Yeah.
really hit on number 1 right there.
Yeah,
so.
that's number 1 right there.
But you look at something like number 2 in public works. I mean, economic development, as the city grows, so does all, in terms of, roads and bridges and sidewalks and neighborhoods, and then the maintenance of all of that stuff. So I mean, it has, it has a major impact. As like I say, as city grows, we have a census coming up in 2020. I mean, we could be at 40,000 residents, and everything grows. And business licenses grow, liquor licenses grow. And then there's this huge nexus between planning, between Joe's area and there in terms of all the planning and zoning ordinances and everything related to all of that. So it's just, everything is just very much intertwined. So, but it goes the other way too. A merger occurs, city-county merger occurs. Now we're going the other way.
Actually, there is a statistic, you'll probably find it in the book somewhere in my house, but it's that there's a fallacy that businesses are just apt to choose where they want to settle if there's tax write-offs and other financial incentives, but often one of the very first or can be most important consideration is infrastructure related, especially if they need specialized waste disposal, high water pressure, roads that are weight bearing. So, even if they're not actively talking about this, it's certainly impacts whether or not they're likely to come, I think, more so than other incentives.
Well, we've spent the last 2.5, 3 years talking about a sanitary sewer for the pond district. I know they were talking about it before I got here, street extensions. There's definitely a huge part of economic development that relies on infrastructure and either the presence of it or lack thereof.
Right.
Stephanie brought it up tonight.
Yeah.
What can we do as an actionable item that's reasonable with budget to help advocate for that?
The sewer.
We had the open house, and we've, had discussions with the, Rockwood and stuff to see if they can,
Yep.
because they're the ones gonna have to be get them off the ball. then.
Correct, and we had a pretty lengthy discussion at Admin Public Works last month. It's right now currently on the agenda for the meeting next week as well,
Mhm.
to bring it back up. So they're taking it all on it so far.
I guess what I meant is what we can do is, as a committee, would it be helpful if we organized individuals like Stephanie to come speak at the meeting?
We've had several.
As a business, okay.
Yeah,
Never mind then.
Stephanie has attended those meetings. Other private property owners have as well. We've had some of the public institutions attend to provide some property owner feedback that helps in that discussion to show that there is a need. I think the point's been, message got across.
Okay.
The big problem is
Fun.
MSD's cost
It's the
for
fun.
it. It's their incredible cost. I mean, what was it, 6 or 7 million?
No.
It's come down.
Yeah.
Oh, it's come down?
Yes.
Okay.
Depending on the alignment, if we do the original alignment that we first looked at, it was about $2.5 million for construction. With the bond financing, it was up to $4 million in total costs. We redid the alignment, so now it's just straight down Manchester Road. The construction cost is just over $1.2 million. With the bond, it's about $2 million with total financing. So it's come down.
Okay.
It's still pretty costly for a property owner, which is
Yeah.
the biggest roadblock.
That's the biggest problem.
Not including, that doesn't include the lateral lines or anything
Not
else.
private
Right.
attachment, tie fees or anything.
No, they'd have to pay for their laterals
Yeah.
to come in off of it.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. And we don't have a whole lot of cash sitting in the pocket somewhere right now that's been already allocated for other things, so. That makes it tough. Okay. Anything more on this particular topic?
And then there are four information items that I'd be happy to go into, if you'd like to, any of them, none of them, or some of them.
I just had one item that it's not on here, but I brought it up at the start, and I did go to some businesses I know that we bring businesses in here. I think the committee should really look at doing some off-site meetings at the businesses. So I talked to a number of the businesses in just the town center area, since that's Ward 8, and the Thai Bistro said he would be willing to host a meeting, if we set it up in advance. Heels said that, she would do one, but like next year, since she had just hosted an event recently. Jeannie Hood said that she would be interested in hosting, not an event, but a committee meeting. Talked to a number of others, and we're not interested at all. But I think that that's something that we should really look at, and if there's businesses in other wards as well that, that we can go out, because I think that's one thing as just for council members, to go to the business so we can see what it looks like on the ground. How are your curbs? How are your streets? How's the sidewalks look? How's the lighting? How's the sign ordinance working for, and so we get
Instead of
on
bringing
site.
Stephanie, we can go to Stephanie, we can sit in her private room upstairs and.
We just have to live stream.
Have a
it.
cigar and some whiskey and.
Well, that's an issue that we need to
So
talk
what if,
about.
because if it has to be public record and it has to be live streamed, what if we had the meeting first and then we had a field trip?
Doesn't have to be
after?
live streamed. It just we just have to have the taking the notes and the minutes and.
Well, not necessarily, Niles. The city has committed, and we have said to the residents that all our meetings will be live streamed. So we've committed to that.
But there's nothing in any ordinance or
No,
code,
there-
or
no.
there's no
You're-
rules that say
there's
that we
no-
can't
we
do
just-
off-site
We
meetings
made
and
a
stuff, so.
commitment to the residents
So
that
what
we
if
would
we-
live stream, all meetings, which is why we try not to have meetings off-site, like it,
What if it's a class field trip and not a full meeting, where we take care of the posted agenda here, but it's more like a fact-finding
I mean,
offsite?
you can
Is that
do it.
appropriate?
Well, you can do it. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, we made a commitment to the residents to try to live stream where we can, and
Right.
all meetings. That doesn't.
I think on
necessarily
these
mean-
meetings, we're not talking about budget items and things that are really going to affect people's properties. We're not making decisions that are going to, cost people money or anything, so
We could always record it with a camera. and
Yeah,
post it
that's,
to the
yeah, we
website
can
as
do
well.
that, we can do
We
that.
had planning and zoning and the planning and parks committee go out on site to look at particular properties and things, or to evaluate the impact that the residents may have for a specific activity that they're involved with. So that would be no different. I don't see any reason why we can't
It can be done. That's-
do
yeah.
our standard meeting where specific decisions are made. But, I mean, at this point, this committee is not making life-threatening decisions on anything. So I think it's fine for us to do a field trip if we would like to do that.
Hey, if you could work out 3 meals in that deal, that's good.
I already promised them we would not ask them for anything. I was like, just open up your space, we'll bring our own water, just let us in, you know.
Hey, but you
let us
said
hang
Thai
out.
bistro.
Right.
I
You can't go to
know.
Thai bistro without having dinner.
But-
Well, that doesn't mean we can't buy something
Purchase
while we're
some.
there.
Yeah.
So Julian, can you reach out to either Jeannie or to Joe and see maybe would the committee like to look at that for either like maybe a July or August meeting? See if we can
I'm thinking like the
give
college,
it a try once
or the YMCA, or Schnucks, or Miller House, or any of those that actually have meeting rooms.
Right. I did talk to Miller House. I talked to Andi as well. Since she has already been in here, I not necessarily for her, but she does a lot of those, you know, what's the word, gig economy type little job, you know, places. So maybe it's something that's focused on those people and bringing them in and how they interact in the city and what are they doing to help the local economy just on a smaller scale. So, but yeah, I'd like to look at that for either July or August meeting.
Can you take that on as a task for you to work with Julian to determine which business we could go visit in July or August?
Yep.
Okay?
Joe, Jeannie, or Andy,
Yeah.
start there since they already
We
said they
can
were
talk to
good.
him a little bit more about logistics and communication with them, et cetera.
Yeah.
Does that sound okay? Because I want him involved in the,
Right.
Joe or Steve, do you guys know if we post the agenda here, if we identify what the site is, if that meets our requirement for posting?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
As in the past, it's just, you have to ensure it's reasonably accessible to the public and it's accessible for anybody with special needs.
yeah. That's it.
So, yeah, I mean, we posted where we're meeting at Pond
Or
School
we
something like that,
do
so,
our
yeah.
meeting here, our regular meeting here, and then we do a field trip.
We'll figure it out.
But we've got meetings at Pond School and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Be recorded, so, okay, let's look at the agenda here. What kind of- Anything from Julian's monthly report that anybody wants to get into?
Two big ones. Hidden Valley's having their soft opening of the zip line on Friday,
Okay,
10 a.m. to 7 p.m. All 4 lines are open. I think the 4-line tour is $79. So they posted it on their social today, so look out for that. And then the big one, hopefully everybody else has seen, is that Llewellyn's Pub is going through a revamp. Hopefully everybody's heard about it by now. The ownership has decided to rebrand our location from Llewellyn's Pub to Slice Republic Pizza. It'll be a family pizza restaurant. Same ownership, same layout, just updated. New menu, new signage, new interior finishing, some different games.
Please tell me it's not St. Louis style pizza.
No.
Whoa, 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 buddy, we got it. You don't like Revamp?
Ownership stays the same, drinks are the same, the outdoor patio is the same. They'll actually have wine on tap now as well. The goal was to close remodeling on June 1. Now it sounds like that's going to be June 9-ish. And they'll be closed for about a week and a half, 2 weeks while they go through the remodeling. And that's the real tentative. That's just what I've heard from the store manager.
okay.
Can we get a code change to require uniforms in there? I was in there on Saturday. It was not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of gone down.
And they did have 2 job fairs as well in the last couple of weeks to try and find new staff for Slice once they open. So hopefully that got some traction.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the things that I thought, because it was talking about, businesses that went out, and this, like it mentioned in the Go Joes. There wasn't really a metric that it go out because they had issues. I mean, so I went there once, there was a food issue and a service issue, and like, I never went back. So if other people, maybe it wasn't because there wasn't enough population, maybe it was, you know.
It was a service.
Yeah, so that's what this book didn't talk about, it totally left that out as a problem.
And service industry is a West County-wide issue, it's not a
Yes.
Llewellyn issue. We've held restaurant forums with the chamber, every Steak and Shake is going out in St. Louis. I mean, Greek Kitchen closed in Ellisville and opened in Kirkwood.
I
It's just,
know.
Mhm.
That's-
service industry jobs are hard to keep these days.
Mhm.
That's why I was not surprised when she said a lot of her core group is from,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
everywhere else but
Yeah.
Wildwood. So.
Mhm. Yeah. Unfortunately, our population is not looking for jobs.
My son needs a job, if anybody knows what I'm
Well, I mean, my sons have jobs too, but
He's
a large
turning
portion
16
of
in
our
a couple weeks.
population
So.
does not require their children to work. Once they hit 16 and want to try to work. So that's part of the issue. Any other topics that we need to go over, folks? This has kind of been a little bit more drawn out meeting.
Take a look at the second item, the WBA special event programming. This is just so you know,
Mhm.
but the new leadership of the WBA, Emily, who's the new president, is trying to have the WBA get more focused on holding programming for residents instead of just business-to-business stuff, now holding different types of events intended to benefit residents as well. And so we had a resident committee meeting a couple of weeks back, and the WBA is getting pretty aggressive and outlining a whole schedule of events potentially for the rest of the year, largely piggyback on other city events, whether it's the Main Street concerts or the farmers markets, but potentially up to 4 or so WBA-specific new events, like a WBA food truck festival, potential for a WBA gala later this year, some type of a Halloween wild walk is what they've identified. Just some new things the WBA is trying to branch out and get involved in more to benefit residents than just the businesses that are members. This is, as I said, tentative list, but just so everybody here knows that this is a direction the WBA is going. If you want to get involved or if you're interested in more information, just let me know. We can get you in touch with everybody.
I'm glad that they're as active as they are.
The June WBA social is at Central Bank at Village Plaza. That'll be June 6th. I will not be there, but it's co-hosted by Central Bank and TNF Promotions.
And it's at Central Bank.
Yes,
Okay.
it's that first Thursday evening.
Mhm. It would be a good idea if we had an opportunity to probably go to a WBA event if you want to talk to some of our business people in the city of St. Grief, I'm tired, city of Wildwood. It's a good way to connect with several of them, and we haven't been attending as much as we should have. It became rather apparent to me when I happened into the one that we had here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, here in the community room. So. Any other topics we want to cover for the evening? Do we
Motion to
have
adjourn.
any motion to adjourn? Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Let's go Blues.
Let's go.
They're down, it's
Down
1 to 2.
2-1, yeah.
2-1. Only 9
I
minutes,
know,
10 minutes
it's
play.
8 minutes in the first
What?
period.
It's 2-1 Bruins with only like halfway through the first period.
Yeah, when you said half this play, I went, what?
First period.
We're
down
only in the
2-1.
first period. We've got a little time to go.
That's true.
Is that what you said, 2-1? Okay.
You just need to be motivated by a little bit of revenge from mom and dad.
How's the leg doing, Charlotte?
I have to have surgery, so that's not good, but much better. It just continues to get better.
Oh, no, you're fine. Well, I was working on my
I can't wait to throw that stuff out of control.
Yeah, right.